Welcome to the Dealing with Goliath podcast. The mission with Dealing with Goliath is to sharpen the psychological edge in negotiation, ethical influencing, and high-impact conversations for business leaders who want to be more effective under pressure, uncover hidden value, and build greater connection, all while increasing profitability. This is the short-form espresso shot of insight podcast interview to boost business performance using our 5 questions in around about 15 minutes format. My guest today is Donnie Bryant. Donnie is a direct response copywriter and marketing consultant who helps his clients leverage the human attention algorithm. Of that, going to ask you about that in a minute, and then convert that attention into action. His copy has generated over $120 million in sales for his clients. Wowzers. Donnie believes your marketing needs to showcase your unique value and communicate what that actually means in your customer's life in a compelling way. Otherwise, you're wasting time, effort, and money, and worse than that, you won't be able to accomplish the purpose your business exists to carry out. But that's where Donnie can help. Donnie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I don't drink much espresso, so this conversation will be the jolt that we need for today.
This will be the jolt that we need for today. Excellent. All right, so let's just clarify down a little bit. So who tends to be your ideal client, and what's the biggest challenge they tend to face?
Sure. These days, I'm primarily working with people in the financial industry, in various niches or various verticals in financial, advisors and wealth managers, but also newsletters who are on the totally opposite side of the spectrum. And the main challenge that everyone is facing, I think, in every industry, is standing out from the crowd, getting the attention that you need to touch the people you want to touch and help the people that you can help. So that's what I work to help them accomplish.
Very good. So they're struggling with that sense of differentiation. I get this when I talk to lawyers or when I talk to accountants, when I'm working with people in those sort of, a lot of the old professions in particular, but in a lot of other areas.
Sure.
And they're not great at defining why someone should go with them rather than their competitors down the street, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, I'm in.
It's really like if you mention lawyers, right? What do you have to differentiate? I mean, you do have a lot to differentiate, but the things that you think of naturally, I know all these different laws, I've won all these cases. There's stories involved that you should bring out, but it's not necessarily obvious to most lawyers how to make themselves stand out.
Absolutely not. And of course, it's their culture as well, because a lot of law firms, I do a lot of training. I walk into different ones, radically different different cultures altogether.
Yes.
Maybe to get that across in their marketing would make a big difference. Yeah.
100%.
So what are some of those common mistakes people make when they're trying to improve their copy, when they're trying to improve their marketing, and, as you say, stand out from the crowd that bit more?
The biggest one that I see all the time and across multiple industries, because interestingly, my clients tend to be financial, but I have conversations and do trainings for any niche you can think of. But one that I see constantly is they're focused on, this is going to sound weird when I say it, they focus on themselves first. When the most compelling thing that you can do is focus on the pains and problems, the dreams and desires, and the fears and frustrations of your core audience, the people you want to talk to. They're interested in themselves primarily. So if you want to get their attention, talk about what they're interested in, and then you can turn it back around and show how you fit into that equation for them. Everyone else who's talking about, I have 87% win rate in the courtroom. And that's good. It's cool. But there's other people who can say that. But you being able to speak to my dreams and desires or my fears and frustrations, that sets you apart. And it gets my attention, at least. And I'm paying attention to you and thinking, this person understands me. And that makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. As I always say, it's not about you. It's about your audience. Right?
Exactly.
Does that also not make it a lot easier for a lot of financial institutions? Because they can't write. They're a lot more constricted in what they can say than a lot of their other industries, right? So I would think your approach is very appealing then.
Yeah, no, it's very regulated. I mean, it's one of the most, and it should be, right? When we're talking about people's retirement funds and their ability to, live well, well into their 80s, 90s, 100s, hopefully longer. It's important that we don't mislead or don't manipulate, quote unquote, manipulate people. And there's truth in there. So there's a lot of regulations and rules. So yeah, you have to be appealing in a way that's talking about what those things, that the values that your audience has. You can't necessarily compete on IRAs or, there's the financial tools that are out there. There's a lot of options. There's an overwhelming amount of options, right? And then it's confusing. And then you can't necessarily impact what the Fed interest rate is. So, there's all these things that are not that differentiating. What will differentiate you is your ability to understand and connect with your audience on their values, the things that matter to them, and showing that you understand that, rather than just talking about we can get you a 0.4% interest rate on your savings. It's not that appealing, right? Now, for the people who are giving you 5%, sure, right? That's appealing. But for the most part, it makes a lot more sense to at least start with those personal connections, those value connections, and then work your way back to, by the way, we can actually really help you in your financial performance.
Amazing. Weirdly, you actually reminded me, and I'm actually getting over a dose here, so it might be the fever brain that I'm just coming out of. So I apologize if it sounds totally random. But you remind me of a great piece of advertising when Rolls-Royce were trying to break into the US. You know this one?
Yes.
Right. What was it again? On the picture of the dashboard on a highway, right? And it's like 80 miles an hour down the highway, and all you can hear is the ticking of the clock.
Ticking of the clock. Right.
It's that same thing. It speaks directly to the interests, the desires of your ideal audience, right?
Right. And that's a differentiator, right? Because in my Toyota Camry, I can hear the flies buzzing around.
Exactly. But in a Ferrari, like, they're the opposite, right? They want all you can hear is the engine, right?
And for the people running Ferrari said we're having a hard time with electric, which is the direction everyone wants to go in. But you buy a Ferrari to feel and hear the roaring of the 700 horsepower engine.
Exactly.
So you're right; it's a totally opposite appeal. But for the people who they're targeting, you want luxury, you want peace, that cushiony, ride down the highway. So right, you're appealing to those desires that audience has. For the sports car driver, you couldn't say that. It wouldn't be interesting at all.
It wouldn't be interesting at all. But it's very interesting then for the financial people is to kind of think in that way. Are we a Rolls-Royce? Are we a Ferrari to these people? What do they want?
It's a great point, because there are totally different audiences. There are aggressive options traders who you can almost liken to blackjack players.
Right. That's fair.
Some of them, I've spoken with them. They kind of get the rush out of getting in and out and seeing what they can do very quickly, versus someone who wants to buy something and never sell it. The Warren Buffett approach. My holding time is forever. So you got to speak to those individual segments in different ways.
Do you feel a lot of the financial organizations you work with have that very clear avatar, or is that something you have to help them with first?
It depends. There are some who are very, very clear, and we're always learning and trying to expand, because it's a pretty small target audience, and sometimes the idea is they're a little older, and if we can expand into a younger audience, we can give ourselves more people to work with in a longer period of time to work with them. But it's tricky because 20-year-olds aren't thinking about retirement, right? 30-year-olds are just barely thinking about it, except the responsible ones. So some are very dialed in, some are less so, and they're just, trying to figure it out. And over time, they will, but sometimes, it takes a little while to do that.
Definitely. And as I said, it's interesting that you talk about it, opening up new markets, because could be a very appealing thing to a lot of financial, where they think, we have to aim at this group. It's like, but there's all these other potential niches. Yeah.
It's very interesting. And I don't want anyone to be mad when I say this, but for many financial companies, they're really targeting men, and they don't really speak to women, even though, obviously 50% of the population, more or less, are women, and women have plenty of money. They have plenty of control over the household money, and they definitely are included in the family decisions. So why is the language traditionally? Because I think some of the thinking is old school. In the 70s and 80s, maybe it was more men, and then probably there's still some of that, but for the people who say, let's talk to the women, you open up a market that many people are not even trying to address.
Absolutely. It sounds like you can, how to put it, when you're opening that new segment and that segment feel they're being spoken to, whatever that niche might be, as you said, maybe it's 30-year-olds who are actually doing extremely well in their profession and they're breaking it in and don't know what to do with their money, but don't want to be foolish. Whether, as you said, it's underserved, like half the population, which is quite shocking. I didn't realize that so little financial stuff was aimed, that the language was changed more, as you said, to a female audience. That's pretty shocking, actually. That's a massive opportunity.
When
oh my God.
When you see commercials or you see the ads, they're men, and then the people in charge. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but we don't see as many women represented in the imagery and the advertising, and then also the voices who are speaking. A lot of times there's a underrepresentation of women.
Right.
So if there's someone who wanted to break in that market, let's put some women voices here, okay. and there's just a whole different feel from what many of the institutions are doing. So I don't want to down talk anybody, because everyone is doing the best that they can, but there's an opportunity to speak in a different way and appeal to a different audience if that's interesting to anybody.
Massively. Sorry, I just think I can see dollar signs now. Like, how that hasn't been tapped, that's insane. Yes, no, definitely. So look, on that note, what might be one valuable free action that the audience can implement that'll help with this? So it mightn't solve it, but just even getting their headspace pointing the right direction.
Yeah, the advice I give everyone to start with is just kind of what we said. A lot of times we think about our marketing and we say, what's cool about me? What's exciting about me? What do I like about me? And take some time to, get a piece of paper out and think about, again, we say pains and problems, fears and frustrations, dreams and desires that your audience has pertaining to your industry or the kind of service that you provide or product that you sell. Think about the decisions that they make in that area and what drives those decisions, and then figure out how you fit into that. And you may discover, even speaking about all the wrong things, but take the time to think about how your audience makes buying decision, and then try to align your messaging up with that, rather than thinking about, I know way too many marketers who all they talk about is themselves. And you do have to do that because who you are is important. But again, people are thinking about themselves and their own needs before they're thinking about you. Exactly. So thinking about them, and then think about how you can present yourself in a way that matters to them.
Absolutely. I have to double down on that, when an audience feels, it's talking to me, you're not talking to those people over there. Then it's like, now you have my attention. And that's when I care. Like, you have X amount of years experience, you have X amount of successes and what domains and all the rest of it. Yes. If I don't know that you've got me and I feel understood, then I don't care. You can have all the everything that you say, but so what,
Right. If you said, I'm a lawyer specifically, I'll give you an example from my own life.
Sure.
I'm not legally allowed to talk about this, but we had to sue my children's school, the school district. And we had a lawyer who specialized in that. So lawyers in general, fine. But we found a lawyer who specialized in the particular suit that we brought against a school district. He specializes in that tiny little niche. You'd think it's too small to have a practice on, but it's not. Okay. So we knew this was the guy. There's no question who we were going to talk to. This is the guy who specializes in this kind of suit for this kind of for educational purposes.
Right.
So I knew he was for me. Everything else is like, okay, you're telling me more about what I already know it's for me. And now you're just filling in the details. And we can do the same thing. When we call out our audience, they know this guy or this gal's for me. They're talking about what I want to accomplish. They're talking about me specifically. Or if you ever seen ads, they pop up and they'll say, 50% off for New York residents. And you say, I'm in New York. And then you say, okay, well, I'm interested in this. So 50% off may not be appealing, but it's for New Yorkers. Okay, cool. I'm not in New York. But when you see that, especially if it's in you're in a smaller town, it seems like it's for you. It's generalized, right? They have technology that can say,
Of course.
serve this up. Everyone in their specific area will serve it up for them. But just that individualization, it feels like it's a personalization, feels like it's for me. And at least it grabs my attention because I feel like it's for me.
That's the key thing. That's the key thing. So what is one valuable free resource that you could direct people to that'll help them with all the things we've talked about, or an aspect of the things we talked about?
Yeah, I've recently created a report. I think it's called Hacking the Human Attention Algorithm.
Love it.
And it's specifically about how you create messaging that will not necessarily differentiate you, but it's designed specifically to get attention from the people that you want to talk to. And it's intentionally, I use the word algorithm, not because we're talking about math, but because I wanted to differentiate from artificial intelligence. There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence. It's an amazing tool, but it's not designed specifically to appeal to how attention works for the human mind, at least not yet. It's putting together words, putting together, sentences and paragraphs, but I'm not optimized for attention. And so I want to help people to understand how to optimize your message for attention so that you can then do the serving that you want to do, the helping that you want to do, and bring the transformation that you can create for people. You got to get attention first, though, because otherwise you're talking to yourself. So anyway, Excellent. It's called Hacking the Human Attention Algorithm, and it's free for you.
Excellent. And we'll link to that at the bottom of the podcast and below the video. So what would be your number one insight or principle on how to negotiate, build rapport or connection, or uncover hidden value with clients?
Okay. I was thinking deeply about this because connecting is what we do. You get attention and you connect so that you can transfer whatever you got to transfer, right? I want to sell you something, or I want to buy something for you. There has to be a connection there. And whether you're doing it face to face, it seems like I'm going to say the same thing over and over again, but doing it face to face, or if you're doing it online, it's critically important to listen and understand the person who you're speaking with. Mm-hmm. Because whether you're negotiating, selling, whatever, connecting, again, people start with themselves. Why am I even in this conversation? Why should I talk to you? Why should I listen to you? And you can get them to listen to you by listening to them, right? And let them say what they need to say. Or or online, like they're not necessarily speaking directly to you, but you take the time to discover things about your audience so that you understand how they would speak to you in person, what they're thinking about, how they're feeling, what they're in the market for. So I consider that to be listening as well. Listen to them. It's especially in person, it's very effective, right? When people feel heard, now the barriers come down, the walls come down, and people are ready to have a conversation, and they're willing to hear you out. And I think it happens online as well. When people feel understood, they feel like you understand them and that you care about what they care about. Then they want to listen to you, and they know you're for them. So I would say this: just listen, pay attention to the people you're talking to, and put everything that you say in terms of how you understand them. Now, that doesn't mean tell a story like I only work with, I only sue school districts, but I'm talking to you and you want something else and I sell you something else. That's not what I'm saying. But you can also say, now that I've heard you, I'm really not the person to help you, but I know someone who is. I can direct you to the person who can really help you. But you have to listen first. So anyway, I should have been more succinct in saying that.
That's quite right, but
listen, just listen. And that's where you want to start your negotiations and all the connecting that you want to do.
Absolutely. As I say, when people feel understood, that's the start of rapport. That's the start of trust. And it buys goodwill, because you can drop the ball in all sorts of ways where people go, oh, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. But if they inherently like you, look at the power of brands. That's all about being liked.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. There's something they respond to. And the easiest way to start being liked is to listen and show that you understand. Absolutely. Absolutely.
People, I think, and I'm doing it now, is like people like to talk. You get into a negotiation and you want to do all the talking, right? You get into a sales conversation and all you want to do is talk. spend some time listening. It will change the dynamic of every conversation you have for the better.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Donnie, where can people reach out and connect with you or discover more about you?
Yeah, my website, if you like, I don't update it very often. It's basically just a blog right now, is Donnie-Bryant.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also on LinkedIn a lot these days. You can, if you look up Donnie Bryant, I'm one of the few.
One of the few Donnie Bryants. Yeah.
Yeah, those would be the best places.
Very good. And where can they get the algorithm?
Yeah, we're gonna have the link, but that's gonna be on my website. Is Donnie-Bryant.com/attention algorithm, I think. But we'll have the direct link.
We'll have it below. Excellent stuff.
But that's on the website. Yeah.
Donnie, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate having the opportunity to speak with you today.